Okay, so students, we will get started with a new topic today, strings. Okay, so string is one of the primitive data types, and we can create strings in multiple ways. Okay, string per se is very important as far as programming goes, because you have to deal a lot with the strings for parsing, for extracting message, right? For doing various kind of operations, you need strings. Okay, so uh, yeah, so let's understand strings very well. So strings, to define strings in Python, we can define strings using single quotes and double quotes and even triple quotes. Okay, I think we cover this, how you can define strings. Do you guys remember this?
Yes,
Okay, so can you tell me why do we use triple quotes?
multi-line strings.
Multi-line string. Okay, correct. So s- only thing which you have to make sure that no, whatever quotes you're starting with, you have to close with that. You cannot close with alternative string. Okay, so you'll have to close with that. So like for example, if I say string 1 is equal to, let's say, Shama, right? So this is all good, but we cannot do something like this. Okay, so and I think we have also covered which type of string probably you can use. So mostly we prefer single quotes, isn't it? We discussed about it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, because no, when we are dealing with HTML and all, they will have double quotes. So single quote makes perfect sense. Okay, or unless until we escape them. Great. So triple quotes, triple single quotes, or triple double quotes, we can use for multi-line string, and that's why they are also used for comments. Okay, they are also used for to provide comments. Okay, to comment the a block of code, you can use triple quotes, or just to provide some information to the user, you can also use triple quotes. So yeah, so if you have single quotes, you can surround it by double quotes. If you have double quotes, then you can surround it by single quotes, or you escape the code. Okay, so to escape, we use backslash. Okay, so we use backslash to escape a character, so that Python just uses that literally as that character, unless until it's an escape sequence. If it is escape sequence, then Python is going to process that. Okay, so Python, we don't have like character data type as we have in other languages like C, C++, Java. We have character data type, but in Python, a character is just a single character string. Okay, and these are different escape sequences. So the important ones which we generally use is the new line and then the tab. Okay, so yeah, I think these things are just more of a refresher for all of you. In case you have any question, then you can always ask, right? So then we move on to string operations. Okay, so string operations. So to like do addition, which is also called string concatenation, you can just simply use plus sign. And if let's say if we have string, I think we have defined, okay, we have not defined string. So let's say S1 is equal to hello, S2 is equal to world, right? So if we say S1 is equal to S1 plus S2, so do you think this is going to work if we are trying to assign?
Yes, I think.
yes,
Okay, okay, yes, you guys are right. But one thing you know that strings are immutable, right? Isn't it? Okay, maybe we have not covered this topic. So there are data types which are of two types: mutable, okay, and immutable. Okay, so mutable and immutable are English words. Mutable means it can be changed. Okay, immutable means cannot be changed. Okay, so strings are actually immutable. Okay, so if you define string, they are immutable. Okay, for that matter, all primitive types. So what are the primitive types?
Int, float, string, and boolean.
Yes, very good. So float, boolean, all are immutable. Okay, all are immutable. So you may have questioned that if they are mutable, then how are we able to change this? See, we have changed S1, isn't it? We did S1 and then we added these, concatenated these two strings, and then we have assigned it to S1. Now you may have questioned that, no, okay, if it is immutable, why it is not throwing any error? Do you have that question?
So I think you discussed this before.
We
It
have.
like creates a new string, like
Excellent,
a new
excellent.
location.
Yes. Okay, great. So that's clear to you. Sohan, is it all clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and X and Y, similarly in floats, all of them, even though we can assign values, we can say X is equal to 10, and then we can always increment them, right? Which means it creates a new location. So that's what we have to keep in mind, that no, the memory location, whatever, if we are very clear how things work, then you will not commit any mistake in programming. Okay, so yeah, as you rightly said, that no, a new memory location will be created to store the value 11, and then the reference of that is assigned to X. Okay, so all clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so uh, yeah, so if you want to concatenate a string with a number, you will have to convert it into a string specifically. Okay, some of the programming languages will convert it by itself, implicit conversion, but here you will have to convert it. You will have to convert it and then tell Python, okay, this is integer, or this is a number or float. You convert it into a string and then you can concatenate it. Otherwise, you cannot simply directly add it. Okay, it's going to fail, right? So fine. Now len is what you can use to find length of strings as well as for any sequence. Okay, so len is a built-in function. Do you know how do we get the list of the built-in function? Underscore
Yes,
underscore,
sir.
yeah, built ins underscore underscore, right? And you can see all these things are your built-in functions, and len is also in it. Okay, and if you want to check, okay, what exactly len means, you can use help. So use dir and help to your advantage. Use it, become comfortable with it, start reading the documentation, something like this, right? This is all plain and simple English, but if you're not used to it, it may look a little cryptic to you. So start understanding that this is the syntax, and then this is the description of the basic description of no, any function or any value. So now, right. So now, can you tell me what will be the length of this string?
Six or eight?
Okay, 6 or 8. Okay. Uh, what do you think, Rehan?
So I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. Actually, yeah, it is 6 because this will be treated. This is, since it's an escape sequence, this will be treated as one character. Okay, it will be treated as one character. Okay, so this is actually indeed 6 only, right? So strings support indexing and slicing. Okay, so have we discussed about indexing? Did we discuss about negative index? All
Yes,
this
when we discussed this.
Yes, sir.
when we discuss list. Okay, so in the same manner, the way list works, indexing and slicing, in the similar manner, even strings work. Okay, indexing and slicing works on a string as well. And you can actually iterate also over the string using any for, I say for in Python, you can iterate over it, right? So you can iterate over it. Iterate means going over values one by one. I can iterate over it. See, I'm able to do it. So we can iterate over strings as well as we can iterate over lists. So what is the difference between these two?
In list, it just prints each of the character. In list, each of the element, and in string, each of the character.
Yes, yeah. Basically, in this case, it's a sequence of characters. So it is actually printing the value only. Okay. So, yeah. Any other thoughts? Any other difference which you know between string and list?
So in a list, like we can easily change it
Yeah.
and we can add or remove something easily.
Yeah. Basically, easily means, yeah, of course, you can make the changes in the list, but you cannot make a change in the string. Okay, you cannot change the string. So if I have name is equal to Sam, you cannot say, okay, name zeroth. So you can access zeroth character. You cannot say this is equal to Pam. This is going to fail because strings are immutable. So that's the difference between Sohan rightly pointed out. Lists are mutable, strings are immutable. Okay, so list you can change it, but you cannot change the string. So let's say if we want really to get Pam, how can we get that Pam from this name? Instead of Sam, we want Pam.
Dot replace.
We can do the dot replace. Yeah, so that is an operation which we will discuss about it, but without using any other way of doing that. And dot replace is going to replace all the s wherever it is. Okay, so here we
So
just want
like maybe we can just add p and then slice everything else.
excellent. That's the way, right? So if we say something like this, right, one colon, and this is what it is going to do. It's going to give me Pam, and if you want, you can assign it back to name as well. I can simply say that name is equal to this thing. That's a way you can do this. Okay, well done. So let's move on now. Accessing substrings, yeah, that's called slicing, and we have looked into it. And negative indexes are pretty clear to all of you, right? So
Yes.
okay, so
Yeah.
let's say if I want to access P using negative index, how can I access it?
-3.
Yes, very good. -3. Right now, let's say we want to write a program to reverse this string. I want to reverse this string.
-3 is equal to -1. Like this is replacing them.
Okay, so replace will not work. No, we have looked into it. If you say something like this, that no, we will use name -3 is equal to name -1. This will fail, na? You know that, right?
Yes.
Because yeah, strings are immutable. If it was list, it would have worked. If it was list, P A M, this would have worked, right? I can
Yes.
simply say okay.
So we can loop through the each of the character in the string and add it to the front of an empty string.
Excellent. So that is one of the ways of doing that. So we can say result is equal to empty string for I in name, and then we say result is equal to I plus result. Okay, this will give you the reverse. Okay, so map, PAM becomes map, right? There is an easier way of doing it, and that's we can use -1. Did you understand this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So which means the step negative is clear to you, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so then we have repeating strings, like no, we have repetition operator. So you can multiply the string with an integer, and that's how you can get the repetition. No, I can get hello into 100. So this will say hello 100 times. Right, there are emojis and you can use that. So this is basically Unicode character, UTF-32, right? So now there is a character set, right? So there is a character set which contains all these characters, right? So now these character set, why it is important is that uh, yeah, so initially in earlier days there was only ASCII character set. So it has 256 values. Okay, 256 values. So if if something is storing 256 type of values, what kind what will be the storage size for this kind of data type? Can you think about it? What is the storage size for this kind of data type which can store 256 values?
Maybe 1 GB.
1 GB. Okay, 1 GB. Okay,
So maybe in the less than 1 kilobyte.
less than 1 kilobyte.
Like if each of the values for a byte.
Yeah, so this is not 256, no, not 256 values, but 256 different type of values this data type can
Oh,
store.
different types.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty high,
Okay. So
I
okay. So
think. So how much is it?
how many bits are there in 1 byte?
8?
8 bits. Excellent. Okay. So this is the minimum smallest logical unit of the code which is used for memory allocations and all. Okay. So this is high. This is how it is going to be stored. Okay. So these are 8 bits. Okay. Each one of them, bit is nothing but it will store a binary value, right? So it will either store 0 or 1, right? So 0 or 1. So the value can be either, let's say the first value is 1, this is 0, then 1 1 0 0 1 1. Now you can see that this is 1 byte and it can store this kind of values, which means each uh, container stores 2, which means if you multiply 2 into 2 into 2, this gives you 2 to the power 8. Okay, 2 to the power 8 is 256. Fine. So
Yes.
then then what is the answer? If it is
1 byte.
1 byte, very good. So that's the answer, right? So 1 byte. So earlier character set.
So now it's in hex. Is that the new development?
Okay, good. Now hex is a number system. I will come to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Okay, so the storage, see, eventually the memory, the data will be stored like zeros and ones. Whatever we see 1,000 colors, we see million colors, have different type of characters on the screen, no gradient, opacity, all that. But eventually data will be stored as zeros and ones. That's the truth, that the underlying mechanism, that's how it works, right? So yeah, character data type, like when it started with C, that used to store 1 byte. So if you say char a, then it will be given 1 byte. Okay, and then so 1 byte was good enough to store the ASCII character set characters. ASCII character set characters. No, ASCII character set characters are your basic characters which you find in the keyboard, right? So A to Z, then capital A to capital Z, then 0 to 9. These are the keys which you find, right? Then you have your different comma, slash, question mark, all those different symbols which are there, which is very much sufficient to be
So
stored in
are
the
the backspace enter are those also there?
a backspace, enter. Yes, even they have value. Even they have the ASCII value. Okay,
Yes.
so now all these things will have a So enter is nothing but a return. It's a new line statement, right? So new line will have a storage space for that, right? So whenever any editor or computer sees and it's able to process this character, then it will introduce a new line. Like your statement, it will broken into two. If your editor is not able to process this, then is it just going to print it just as character sequence? Okay, if it is just recognized as character sequence. Now, so ASCII was pretty much yeah, was sufficient to store all the characters you need, but then it went on to then there are other character sets. What happens to that? Like there are Chinese, there's Hebrew, there is Spanish, there's Hindi character set, right? There is Kannada, there is so many different character sets are there. How to store it? So then they said, okay, we can store only 256 values in 1 byte. Let's increase the size. So then you got this UTF UTF 16, UTF 32. These are like called Unicode character sets. Unicode. Okay.
So
So
are those six? What are those 16 and 13?
so this is instead of 8, this is 16 and 8, 32. So which is means this is 2 bytes
Oh, yeah.
and this is 4 bytes. Okay, so UTF-30, if UTF-16 is 2 bytes, UTF-32 is 4 bytes. So that is a space. Now in 4 bytes, you can actually store billions of characters, right? Isn't it? So which means 2 to the power 32, right? These many characters, so you can store pretty much anything, right? So that's where this character set comes in, and that's where we have this Unicode. Now, you had asked one thing. Okay, I said I'll come back to you. Do you remember that? What was your question, Rehan?
So like, why are there hacks in?
Decimal system. Right, right, right. Okay, so yeah, so that is number system, right? So number system, and then
Yes, like I understand hacks. Like I'm asking like, why is Unicode stored in hacks?
why you? Yeah, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that. So
Oh,
so Unicode is just a representation, right? If I show you number with like this, something like this, 0, 1, 0, 2, sorry, not 2, 1, 1. You don't really understand what exactly the value, but if I change this and I'll show you that, okay, this means actually 153, you understand it's better, right? You understand better. But then there are more values, right? So there are, you want to store more, like, no, you want to maybe make it even more compact as a representation, right? So that's where you have your hex number system, which comes in. Okay, hex number system. So the same value you can, it's just a representation, right? The value is the same. The value which is 153, you can represent it in hex, you can represent it in binary. It's just about the size. Like for example, uh, no, uh, this can be represented in only two digits, right? Not FF, but you can convert it into hex, and you can show it in just 2 characters. So hex, right? So
yes.
okay, Sohan, you're clear about number system. Rehan
Yeah,
seems
sir.
to understand. Okay, fine. So this is our uh, this will be represented even in the shorter form, right? Even it will be, I think, this is 153, right? So you can do the calculation, and it will be somewhere around something like this, right? So it's just about the representation, right? Representation. So that's where when okay, so somebody got dropped. Rehan, you got dropped, or it's Sohan?
I think
Sohan?
Ryan.
Okay, Rehan got dropped. Okay. So we'll just give a minute to him. Okay, so Rehan, yeah, so that's what we were discussing. So it's just about the representation, right? So you can show in shorter, especially if the number becomes longer, then you can show in lesser digits, right? So lesser digits. Now, if you ask that what is the purpose of octal, there may be some reason. I'm not aware of that. Okay, you can maybe check out what is the purpose of octal. Octal, right? It is from. Okay, somebody also got dropped again. So is it?
Ryan, sir.
again Rehan. Okay, so he may be having some issue with his computer, I guess. So okay, okay, fine. So yeah, so I was just telling you these are the different number system. It's just about the representation of the values, the way you want to do it. Once you become used to it, you can immediately think that okay, this value is actually equal to 255. Uh, yeah, this value is actually 255. So to represent this, you will have to represent like this, right? So this is more compact. It's just about the compactness, because more the data is compact, then lesser time it will take to be transmitted. Okay, that's why you don't want to transmit in zeros and ones. Okay, we don't really do that. So that is eventually for the computer to do it. Right, so it's just a representation, okay, between the different number system.
So is it harder to transmit hex than that binary?
It is harder to understand, transmit, of course, if the data is longer. If of course, if I'm writing the code in this, it will take a little bit more time than.
So what if I want to transmit hex in binary? Which one will take? Which one is harder?
Okay, so it's not about harder, it's
So
about
then why don't we just use alphanumeric, like all the way till A to Z? That'll make it much easier, right?
that will be a new type of number system, right? So as of now, we have used we use alphabets, right? So we can actually uh, can be used. I don't think there's any reason to stop it, but it can be, since we are going from A to F, we can actually very well go to that, right? So for that matter, you can use any character for the representation, but the only thing is you have to remember all that, right? So remembrance becomes an issue, because if I'm talking about F, I can understand that it's actually 15, right? F is 15. But if we are talking about, let's say if you are representing a number, and if I say, okay, M, there may be some, it may be a little harder to understand, okay, what really M, the value of M could be. Longer the digits, more problem it could be. So that may be the reason why it
Yes,
is
so
not
but the
there.
messages would be much shorter, right?
Messages will be much shorter. That is true. And uh, that you can also say that no, it's more of it's not in plain English, but it is more of a encoded message, right? So encoding can also be done to reduce the size of the message. But then again, what happens then? So this is about the number, right? This is about the number. So uh, now this number, if we are representing in this kind of form, we can actually pretty much represent in this way. Transmitting a number and all is not about, maybe it's not about more of transmission, because we are talking about numbers, but it's more about representation. instead of Instead of writing this kind of string, or like for example, if you are writing a value of colors, each color you have to say 255 and then something like this, right?
Yeah.
So 153, instead of that you can just simply use 2 digits, right? So it's more about maybe saving time while typing, because it's also, you can understand that. So far, four different type of number system has come, right? Including hex. Uh, there may be reason, right? So there may be reason why only 4 types are there, why people have not come with 12, just till 12, because we have 2, then 8, and then 10. Again, 8 is a question mark. I'm not sure where exactly you can use 8, 10, 16, like that, right? So there may be some reason. One has to do research on that to understand that reason. So you can, if you're curious, you can actually go ahead and do the research. But yeah, these are numbers, uh, and one number can be represented in different number systems. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So we will move on. So yeah. So there are the various characters which you can, again, you can print it using your print statements, right? So you can go over that. Okay, now we come to splitting of any string, right? So you can use split function for that. And the reverse of the split is actually join, and this is a very common operation which you have to perform. So you should become comfortable with it. So when we are, let's say we are splitting this, right? So if I don't specify any,
So it returns um, a
it
list.
returns you a list. It returns you a list of those strings split by spaces. If you don't provide anything, if you provide any character, it is going to split on that character. Okay, so something like this. Got it?
Yes.
Right. So now let's say we want to join it back. How do you join it back? Right. So many times this is a question that, no, how do you join this back? So I want, this is my list and that's where I'm storing. Now L is fine, right? So I'm printing this out and it is printed. Now I want to join back to this similar kind of string. The way you can use it, you can use the strings function join. So we will say dot join. We will use join method on this string itself. And then we will use, we will pass the iterable inside that. And this will end up, concatenating with
So is it mandatory for the iterable to be a list?
no, it not list, it can be any iterable. It has to be iterable. It can
Yeah.
be it
So
can
like,
be
can it be like an array or a tuple?
it can be tuple, it can be anything, but only thing is the data type has to be of type string. Okay, you cannot so
No, sir. The one which you have to give is argument for join.
yes, so that's what I'm saying, that the data which should be stored in this list should be of string type.
Okay.
Okay, so you see that now we are able to concatenate this, right? If we want
So
to,
where did the comma go?
we did not put the comma. So if you want comma, then you have to put comma, and then it's going to use that particular one character to join that. So join is a reverse of split. So now we have the comma back. Okay, got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it puts the first element, then a comma, and the second element, then a comma. Is that how it works?
That's all. No, it will
Oh,
basically think about it. It will use those elements. They will join it and just put whatever character you have. It will put that in between the two strings. Okay. So let me take a
yes.
simpler one so that it's clear to you. I will just say A comma B, right? And now if I do this, you see that no, it is just joining this and it's just putting dollar in between, just the string.
So it puts that element between the
Yes,
element.
not only element, it can be any string also. You can put like space like this, or you can have pattern, something like this. So you can,
Yes,
yeah.
got it.
Right. So if this is a number, this won't work because it has to, if let's say if I have 2 and 4, this is going to fail. Okay. Expected string instance found int. Okay. So it to concatenate, it needs to be needs to be strings. Okay. So for that, if you want to do it, then you can do something like this. You will have to convert individual items into string and then concatenate it. Okay, clear?
Yes.
So is there any way to convert all the items in a list to a string?
You can use list comprehension. It's a little bit advanced topic.
Oh.
Okay, so we cover that in advanced Python.
So can you just show the command?
Yes, very simple actually. So let's say if I have something like this, uh, so this fails. So what I can say is I will use list comprehension. I'll say X for X in L, and then this I can convert into string. Okay, and so
And then reassign it. Is that?
and then I
Oh.
assign it back to this. So this becomes a list of strings. So if I just print L, then you see it becomes a list of strings. Okay,
So here if you put like float of x, then it'll convert
you
each of
can
them to a float.
you can do anything with this. This is an expression. You can use you can have any expression. Even you can have expression without even x. You can have
Oh,
anything. Okay, you can have like
so it
anything.
reassigns each of those elements with this, the one given in the beginning.
Yeah, to understand this
Oh,
it's just a simple it's a
yes.
compact way of for loop only. It's a compact way of for loop only. So you have like one statement, that one state inside for loop you have one statement, and that one statement you can put it in front. Okay, so
Yes.
that's how you get that value. Okay, so uh right, so this is the thing. And yeah, if I do this, then you see that no, it is not using x, it is using any string. Got it? uh yeah, so I'll just delete this. Fine, so this is how split and join works. Sohan, don't worry if you're not you haven't understood list comprehension. That's anyway advanced topic. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So again, there are other methods, count and all. You can actually try them. You should go through the documentation, and not going to go through everything. Whatever is important is I'm covering that. So, but make sure you go through the documentation and you try out at least some of the functions. What you can understand, you can try out these functions. If you have any confusion, then you can always use help and then read about that and try it. Okay. So it's all about practice. More and more practice you do, better it will be. Okay. Right. So practice time, of course, is you get in the lab as well, uh, where you work on some assignments. But before you reach the lab, you have to make sure that you have gone through the notes. You've gone through the notes, and whatever are the things you have tried them out. Okay. So that you're very clear, right? So since uh, you have learned a little bit of Python earlier, there may be some repetition, but always in programming, whenever you're spending more time, you get to learn more and more. Okay. And once you master this, then nothing like that. You can create great things. Fine. So, right. So replacing, you can use a replace function, right? Replace method on this string, and then you can replace it with whatever you want. So you see, this is my string, and then I'm simply replacing hello with goodbye, and I'm able to do that without any problem. Okay. So finding a substring, you can use the find method. Then there are other string operations. You should try them.
So
Clear?
why does it return -1 if the substring is not there?
So that's how it is implemented. If it does not find any string, it will return -1. And this is actually quite useful, because let's say there's another function called if let's say if I'm trying to find index, right? If I try to find index of this substring, right, in this, right? So see what will happen is it's going to fail, right? So substring not found, and it is also throwing an error. What happens when error is thrown and it's not handled? What happens to your program? What happens to your program execution?
It gets
Crashes.
It
crashed.
crashes. Yeah, it crashes. You should not let your program crash. Crash means you don't have any control, then the program is dead. So yeah, so maybe using find or maybe doing a count is better than just directly running index. Okay, directly running index. So you have to be judicious. There are various ways. Everywhere you cannot use exception handling. So the way you're doing the programming, you try to use the methods which will not end up throwing this kind of error. If there is a possibility that this string may not be found, then we should use find instead of index. If you have to use index for some reason, then make sure that no, you make sure before that okay is ln in, right? If this ln in, if this returns true, then you can do index. So we can say something like this, then only we do this kind of thing. Okay, then only we try to find the index. Now in this case, now it's not failing now. Okay. Clear?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So, right. So, yeah. So, guys, go through all this. Go through all this, and we come. I think we have already discussed about f strings. You guys must be clear about it. I also see in your assignments you were using f strings. So, all clear, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so there is another uh, like formatting option which you have, which is a dot format method, and it is there since very long. F strings are recent phenomena. I think it was added in 3.7 or 3.8. So earlier versions you cannot use F strings, but you can always use dot format function. And again, it's like everything in Python. Even this is very straightforward. You have this string format. You have a string which you want to format it, then you define a placeholder using curly brackets, and then you can replace it by any value. Okay, this you can replace it by any value. So these are actually called positional arguments. So now since we have two curly brackets, it will be honored as per the position of these arguments which we are passing. Okay, if you're passing. Now if we have, let's say, 3, then it's going to fail. It says, okay boss, no, 2 out of range. So basically the third one is not there. So how do I fill this? So you have to exactly match this. Okay, these are uh, positional. Now you can actually define indexes as well using the brackets with the uh, value of the index, right? This means what? So 1 will be replaced by the argument which is at index 1. The first argument will have index 0. So this is how you can also use format method using the numbered positions for these arguments. Okay, then there is named values also is what you can pass. Okay, so you can provide a placeholder with a name in it, right? So and then you assign uh, that keyword a value, and it will be assigned to no assigned inside the string. Okay, so let me just execute this. So now hello placeholder is getting replaced by Farhan. Then Adam is 20 years old. It is getting replaced by these two values. In this case, if I run this, now you see that even though here Smith comes first, but we are, we have Carol, which is getting printed here, right? So hello, Carol Smith, you got 75%, right? So, and this is our uh, named values which we want to replace. And in this case, you don't have to even worry about the order. Okay, see, my first name is coming earlier than age, but I've defined age, so it all works fine. Okay, right. Then there is, then we have formatting options using your no curly brackets, colon, and no, you can do the alignment. So if you're using this kind of like less than operator, then it will be left aligned. If you're using uh, greater than operator, it will be right aligned, right? So this is something which you can also do. And also we are specifying that 35 is what we are specifying as the length, total length of the string. Okay, so this is occupying this thing, right? So let's say the first one I make it 30, then you see that this is basically total space is getting reduced to 30. If I make this greater than, then this will become right aligned. Okay, so those are the, this is how you can do use formatting. There are more options. You can actually read about them, and then you can try out more things. Okay,
So how
so
can you do the same thing with F strings?
how can we, no, we cannot do, so that's what it is, much more powerful.
So
F
we
string
can't
is,
do the alignment thing with the
no, you
F
cannot do
strings.
alignment thing. You cannot do like parameter replacement thing, right? So F string is just evaluation of that, of those expressions which are inside, which are embedded in the strings. Okay, so you
Yeah.
cannot do all that with f string, but with format method you can do it. Great. So try out these problems. These are very interesting. Okay, so let's say we want to reverse this string, and then this we know, right? This we have already done it. Reverse words in the string. So let's say if we want to do something like this, right? We want to reverse the word, right? So we want to bring the, like this will should get changed to this, right? So if we have something like this, how can we do that, right? So let's say we define
So we
s.
can like convert it to a list, like split it and convert to a
Yes,
list, and then
yes, very good. Yes, so we can say split, and this is going to return me the list. So now I have a list which contains strings, right? So in this, I can say colon colon -1, right? So this is going to give me the reverse of that, and then I will just simply join it. Okay, so to join, I will use single space dot join, and this should do the job. Yes, dog lazy the over, right? So the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Clear? So this is how you do things in Python, right? In just one line, you can do all that. And this is pretty understandable as well. Is this understandable or is it confusing?
Understandable, sir.
understandable.
Okay, good, good. Right. So that's what Python is pretty intuitive. Even though we have written so much functionality in one line, we can understand it. Okay, because the way the naming and all is done, the way things are formed. Okay, so we are basically kind of chaining the command. So this, once we have manipulated this, we are able to pass inside join function, right? So we have to make sure that this thing, there has to be a return value. There has to be a return value, right? So it should mean not something like this dot join. Let's say I'm just saying print hello, and then we are doing something like this, right? This case, this will fail because this thing is not returning anywhere. It's returning none. It's returning none. So it's going to fail. Okay, so make sure whatever you are passing as an argument is returning you the value. Is returning you the value. Like one thing which was, yeah. So let's say we wanted to, we have a list which is equal to 23, 56, 10, 1. We want to actually sort this list and then concatenate it again. Okay, so let's say we try to do this again. We will say L dot split, right? So this is going to split it. We are going to get the strings. Now we want to sort it. We don't want to reverse it. We want to sort it, right? So we will say, okay, I'll use sort, isn't it? This will give you a list which will be sorted, right? Now, after sorting, I want to concatenate it, right? So let's say I define it again. I want to concatenate it. We do try to do same thing again. So we do something like this, and then we say, okay, we will just simply use join, and we'll say space dot join, and then we should be good. Then this is going to, you'll get an error in this. Can you tell me why we are getting error? Can you tell me why we are getting error?
So maybe it's like it's converting them like float or something.
It's converting them into float. Okay.
So it can't join it.
Yeah, so that is one thing which is there. Maybe this may not give us right output, the what we are expecting, because we wanted to convert this into number. Then only we will be able to sort it numeric wise. As at the moment it is sorting alphabetically. Okay, so that's how it is working. But that's not the reason for this failure. Can you tell me what is the reason for this failure? We are doing simply right. L split dot sort, and then we're joining on that.
Can you
So
like
maybe
try
they're
to print
immutable.
what the sort gives us output?
Yes, we did that here. Just this did this right.
Yes, sir. What does it give as an output?
Yeah, so if I do this, now this ends up.
Uh, it's already a string.
Yeah, it's already a string, right? So
So because strings are immutable.
okay, no. So what is happening is, so if you look at this thing, this function returns none. You cannot run join on none, right? You can run join on a iterable. This is something which you have to be careful. Okay. Anyway, so I think if we
So,
want
so
to,
how will we go about doing this?
yes, so we can do like we can just simply say split. This is going to split it, right? We can understand, okay, it's going to split it. And then once it is, the split is done, now this thing is returning me a list, right? On this list, I can do a sort, right? On this list, I can do a sort. But before doing that, we cannot really do, so we will say
So we
split.
assign it to.
We'll have to assign it, because if we are doing, we can do sort on this. We can say L split dot sort, but what will happen is this string is actually in the memory, right? If you're doing this, this is actually in the memory. We've not assigned to this, and it will do the sort in the memory itself, but we are not storing it anything, right? We have not stored it in anything. Getting my point? So see, this is actually a string. This is not a list, right? This is a string, right? And when we did this L dot split, even though it created this list, but we have not stored it in a, don't have any reference to hold it, right? So now what we did is, okay, this split is there, this is not there. On this we are doing sort. This will do the sorting. This will do the sorting, and it will actually change this. It will change the value. So it is an in-place sort. It's going to change the value in the list itself. But once it changes it inside this function doesn't return anything. Doesn't return anything. So you can actually use an alternative one. Instead of sort, you can use sorted. It's a built-in function, sorted. Okay. You can use something like sorted. This is going to return you a sorted one. Again, this is actually a alphabetical sort, right? So if we have,
So alphabetical sort is also like numerical sort, right?
no, alphabetical sort will be like as per the alphabet. So I think,
So are numbers before alphabets?
yeah, so 11 101. So if we do this and we,
Yes, so it's not value, it's like first come.
yeah, so see, 11 is coming after this. 11 is coming after this, right? Right. So 11 should have come before 101, right? So it is doing alphabetic sort. In fact, 23, 11 should have been the last one. Getting my point? So this is alphabetical sorting. You know alphabetical sorting, the way it works, right? So it
Yes,
will
like
compare character by
first
character.
element.
Yes. Right. So how do we do this? So the way to do it is, before we are doing sort, we will have to convert it into integer. So we can complicate it this further. Generally, it's not advisable, but we can say xn, and we know that this is an int. So we are going to convert. We are going to use for X. We are using list comprehension. Okay, so Sohan, you can just understand that this is just my for loop, and the one statement which was there is basically that's what we are representing it here. Okay, so that's what is becoming part of this outer list, right? So this means that this X is available to you here, and you can do anything with this X. So this X is an individual item, and we are getting a string, so we can convert it into number. So this will give us the right value. Okay, and now this you can very well you have to again what you have to do, you know that, right? Again, list comprehension, because you want to make them a string, right? So you'll say str x for x in, right? So it's become a little bit complicated. So now we have got this. Now this will give us string. Now you can simply join it. So since we wanted to do it in one line, it has become such a big mess. So otherwise you should split. Ideally, you should split this kind of functionality and do it in multiple lines. Okay. So we ended up sorted string with sorted numbers. Clear? Yeah. Okay. Students, let's take. I think we have done strings. So rest of the things you should try them, assignments and all things, finding unique words, all these things. More important is, yeah, classwork is fine, but more important is you should go through the document and try out, try the programs in it, read the documentation, right? Whatever is mentioned, you follow that. Okay, let's take a quick break, 5 minutes. Let's get back at 12:09.
Yes.
Okay, so functions, right? So we have been using a lot of functions. So anybody can tell me what exactly function means? What is a function? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. What is function?
Like working, functioning, like
Yeah. Yes. So function, as the name says, it does a functionality for us. Okay, it does a functionality for us. It will do one task for us. It will do one task for us. And we can give input and function gives us output. Okay. So far we have been using functions. Can you name some of the functions which we have used? Print, input, len, whatever, whatnot, like int, str, float, right? I mean these functions, right? These are functions which you have used, right? So now, so these we can actually create our own functions. Okay, so we also call them user-defined function. Now, so let's say we have this code. We want to simply find simple interest for the money which we put in the bank. Bank gives us interest. Let's say we want to calculate simple interest. This is the formula for simple interest. You multiply principal, interest rate, and year divided by 100, and that's what you get. Okay, you get simple interest. Now, this you in your project you may have this requirement of calculating simple interest at various places. One way is maybe you can do this, but then what does means is it's a duplication of the code. Okay, duplication of the code in programming is not allowed, and there's a principle called dry. Heard about this?
No, sir.
no, sir.
Don't repeat yourself. Okay, so that is a programming principle. Don't repeat yourself means try to reuse, try to make your code modular. Okay, you should avoid duplication. Don't duplicate your code. So that's what it is. So if you have no code to calculate in simple interest at various places, better thing is you just put it at one place. Okay, so what are the advantages which you'll get at if you are using function for functionality like this? Advantages of using
Reusability.
reusability. Yeah. So what is the benefit by the reusability? So we are reusing it, right? So what are the benefit we are getting?
Shorter code.
Shorter code, yes. Lesser lines of
Better
code.
comprehension because the function is already
Let's
defined.
execute.
Yes, yes. So better comprehension. That's what you were saying. So better comprehension from what by how it is better comprehension.
So like otherwise, if you have to paste the formula all over again, then if another person is seeing it, then he'll get confused when seeing.
Yes, very good, Rehan. Yeah, better comprehension. Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Sohan?
The execution.
Execution. Sorry, I'm not. Your voice is breaking. Is it my internet or your internet, Sohan?
So I think my internet, sir. 1 minute.
Okay. Okay. No, last
So
statement.
he said execution time. He said that.
Execution time. Execution time. Okay. Execution time will be actually nearly the same because you will have to execute all those statements all over again anyway, right? So execution time will be nearly the same. It also functions will increase little bit of memory footprint, a little bit of memory footprint, but that uh, no overweigh, that is basically the benefits overweighs this. Okay, so okay, Sohan was not there, he had dropped. Okay, so Sohan, you're back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now Rehan has got dropped. Anyway, so you were saying execution time, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, execution time may not be the high benefit because those statements anyway you have to execute it again and again, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you have to execute those statements with different values of the arguments, right? So that may not be a benefit, but a shorter code, better comprehension are benefit, and another primary benefit is maintainability. Okay, maintainability, which means if you have to make any changes, if you have to fix any bug, right? If you have to bug are issues in the code. Okay, bugs are issues in the code. If you want to fix issues in your code, then if you're using function, you just go and change once instead of change everywhere wherever it was uh, repeated. Okay, so you just make that fix once and everywhere it will be reflected. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, very good. So yeah, better comprehension comes from the fact that once you name the function, when you're using the name, it is much more clearer. Like for example, we have this, okay, what are we doing here? We don't know principal interest here. What are we trying to do it? But as soon as we replace it by like calculate interest, we clearly know, okay, we are calculating interest, right? We can clearly know this can be like calculate simple interest. So we clearly know, okay, so this is going to create me this is going to return me the simple interest. Okay, so that is how it is, and that's how it improves the comprehension, it improves the readability. Okay, okay, Rehan, you are there. I thought you had got dropped. Oh,
So I
okay,
am.
okay, okay, okay. I think Sohan joined from another device. Okay, got it. Right, so now to define your own function, uh, you will have to use the def keyword. Okay, def keyword, then you have to give it a name of the function, and this name has to follow the same variable naming rules. Okay, same variable naming
So are there
rules.
any conventions for functions? Is it the
Convention
same? Like,
convention for the
should there be
function.
like capitals?
No. So as I said, same naming convention. So in Python, you would want to use like no underscore.
Yes.
Okay, you'll use snake case, right? Like calculate interest, you will use underscore snake case. Okay. Then you have your arguments. Okay, this is what you pass to this function. You call them arguments. Okay, and then you have this colon. Colon indicates what? What does colon indicate?
A block.
Yeah, starting of a block. Then as soon as Python sees colon, okay, there must be a block coming in. Then it expects this is kind of spacing in the front. It expects this kind of spacing in the front. And then you can have your code, then you can have your function body or function block of code, right? So this is my function body. And then you can also have a return value. Return value means after function has executed, it can return you an output. Okay, it can return you an output. So all that is basically that's how you create a function. Like in this case, you simply see once you pass these arguments, now these arguments will hold some value, right? So once we define this function, and let's say I comment this, okay, if I comment this and if I just execute it, right, this function will be parsed, but it will not be executed. Okay, this function will not be executed. To execute this function, I will have to make this explicit call. I'll have to say calculate interest, this is my principal, this is my interest rate, and I want it for 2 years. So it is going to then execute this function.
So it says years equal to 1. Is that like the default value?
Yeah, that's a default value.
Oh,
Yes. Right. So the advantage is now I can call this function with even 2 arguments. Okay. If I'm not passing the third argument, it is understood that no, it will take the default value. Okay. So this is the default value for this year's argument. Okay.
yes.
So, right. So we will actually look into all that. Uh, Now, a function may or may not have arguments. A function may or may not have return statements. Okay, so like you see this function, it doesn't have any return statement. It will just execute the function block. If you have print, it's going to print it. So we are saying square of 10. So it is not even taking any input. We are not passing any argument. They'll just always print the square of 10. Right, so that's how we are executing. To execute, we provide the brackets, and that's the indication also that okay, this is actually a function call because there is a bracket there. Okay, clear so far, so good?
Yeah, sir.
Yes.
Okay, good. So now, yeah, so this is all is fine. In this input, this is output, this is function, this is what we have discussed. So default arguments, default argument values. So this is how we can pass it. Okay. And this function can be now invoked with just 2 arguments. Let's say I'm in, so I'll execute this and I will execute this. It works all fine. But let's say I get rid of this. It executes fine. It takes year by default. Let's say I remove the default value, right? And then executing this again. What will happen if I execute it now?
An error.
It will be an error. Very good. So it says missing one required positional argument. Okay, positional argument because they are coming on the position, and there's a third positional argument. Okay, third positional argument. So this is missing a
So
value.
can you define them like in any order? Like, can you just say principal equals to that, years equals to this, like that?
You can do that also. We'll come to that. Okay,
Oh,
we'll come to that. Is there? Uh, so now, if nothing is default value, then we will have to pass multiple same number of arguments. Okay, if this is a default value, then we are good. If we are passing any value, it will take this value. If we are not passing that value, it is going to use the default value. Okay, fine. So we are coming to this. We will actually discuss about scope in a bit. But before that, range and all. Okay, so UDF, user defined function, that's what we call them, lambda. Okay, so that's actually part of advanced function advance topic, right? So it's pretty simple to understand. We can also say, like, no, we have defined this value, right? So we can also say principal is equal to this thing, right? We can execute like this also, but make sure that if you're using keyworded arguments, the keyworded arguments has to come in the last, because positional arguments have to positional arguments, because they go by the position. Keyworded arguments, you have to have it in the last. So this thing I can have it actually in the last, but in this case, again, this is going to create any issue because we have the principal, but we don't have interest rate in years. So we will have to assign value of uh, this can be my year. Okay, something like this. This will work fine. Okay, years. Okay, so okay, so if you have 3 rupees for 10,000 years at an interest rate of 4, then you are going to get 1,200 rupees back. Okay, so you can provide this kind of default values, but in that case, if you provide default values for everything, you are good. Okay, so we can just simply say that, okay, my year is not that much. My year is, let's say, just 2. Principal is 10,000, and in this case, we'll say principal is equal to, and we have to provide interest rate as well. Okay, so this becomes keyworded arguments, and in this case, this will work fine. Okay, so yeah, so there's a more discussion. There are more variations of function, right, which are actually covered in advanced topic. We don't cover that in this program. Okay, so because there are various kind of options there. So we'll just get rid of this. Principal, okay, sorry, so it's 10,000 and interest rate should be 4. Okay, good. So let's come to scope. Okay, let's come to scope. It's a very useful concept, which is scope. Now, anything which we don't define inside the function goes in the global namespace. Okay, namespace is nothing but scope. Namespace. Okay, you can just simply understand about the scope as like the visibility, that like a visibility, right? This is visible where. Okay, this is visible where. If I've defined C here, is it visible inside this or not? Right. So now anything at a higher level will be visible to the inside level. Okay, will be visible to inside level. So since this is not part of any function, it goes in global namespace. So this is this is visible to all the functions. Okay, this is visible to all the function. We don't have to even mark it as global C. I can just remove that, right? And this is all fine. Now the C is visible, and then we are just invoking this. Now what are we doing here? What are we doing here? We have defined this variable, then we have defined this function, and what are we saying is we are printing C here, right? And inside function, what is the value of C? This we can maybe get rid of it. And then this function is just adding this value, and then it is returning this value to me. Okay, okay, so I think we have a little bit jumped. So do you guys understand what is a return statement?
Yes.
Okay, Sohan, what is return statement? You understand that? Sohan, can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Sohan says, yes, sir. Sohan seems like mic is not working. Right. So how many return statements can a function have?
1.
Okay. What do you think, Sohan?
Even I think 2.
it can have two. Okay, now a function can have any number of return statements. Okay, it can have return 1, return 100. It can, so in this case, returning just integer 1 value and integer 100 value. You can have any return statement, but as soon as the first return statement is executed, the function exits, it goes to the caller. It goes to the caller from wherever the function call was invoked. The
So
control,
each of these will be in like a code block. For example, each of these will be in an if block or else like
yes, it
that.
can be an if block. It can also be part of
A
for
loop.
block. Yeah, for loop, right? Depending on something you want to just simply return it, right? So just think about it. This return statement, as soon as it hits that, is going to simply return. Okay. So now a function may not have any return statement. Okay, function may not have any return statement. So by default, Python is going to return none. Okay, by default, Python will return you none. If you don't, so either you have just simply return like this, okay, or you have return none, or you don't have any return statement. Okay, in all the cases, this function will return none. Okay. Is it clear? Confusing?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Understood.
understood. Okay, good. So fine. So coming back to scope now, right? So now you see this. What are we doing here is we are just printing C, and that's it. And we are returning A, B, and C. So if C was not visible, then it probably should have thrown error here, and it should have thrown error here as well. Okay. And then what we are saying is we're passing 20 and 30 to this. So the value of A and B are 20 and 30. And then we're holding the value in the result. So if C is visible, then the value should become 20 plus 30 plus 10, right? So it should become 60, right? So you see the result is actually becoming 60. So which means C is actually visible. So C, since it's part of global, it is visible to all the functions. It's visible to all the functions. Got it? Right. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay, so now just I want to try one more variation. So let's say I say print D and I assign it D. So yes, I think this will fail because D is still not defined. I'm invoking before this. This is going to fail. Okay, so D is not defined. So if D was defined before this function call, it would have worked. Okay, so in this case, it would have worked. So it should be defined outside the function. If it is part of the global scope, it should still be defined before the function call. Because Python is an interpreted language, it will execute line by line. As soon as it get the line, it will just execute it. It will not look beyond. Okay.
So while it passes through the function, it doesn't matter if it has a D which is not defined. Like
It will matter, na? If it is a
so
D.
like now we define D after the function was defined, right? Before the function call, but after the function.
Yeah, we checked that, so that works.
Yes, so when Python is interpreted, right? So first it goes through the function and it passes through it, right?
Yeah, it parses through it. So it is
So
just
and
kept.
there's D in it, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because it's at a definition time. Some of the values will be initialized later. So it's okay. It understands that. That's how Python has been
So
built.
it
Okay.
sees D and then like it doesn't matter. It's not defined.
It doesn't matter at the definition
Oh,
time, but at the execution time, the value should be available. Okay, at the
yes.
execution time, value has to be available. So now the value has to be available, and then that's how it gets the value, because the value was if it was here, we had not even defined it, right? So yeah, so that is there. So anyway, let's get rid of this, but we understand that the value should be there now. So this is, I think, very clear that no, C is visible to this. Now what happens is if I say C is equal to 100, right? and I am printing C here outside, right? So I printed result. So I have made this call. I made this call, and inside function C, maybe I'll just comment this line. So I have made this call, and then outside function, and then again I'm printing C. So what do you think will be the value of C, which is outside? Let's
100.
let's say I print it here. So yeah, so this will definitely be 100 because we have defined just before it, right? So now since C is in global scope, we will think that okay, it is 100, but there is a difference here. So if I execute this, so it will actually remain 10 only. So it will remain 10 only, even though it was defined outside and it is visible. And now the sum is actually 20 plus 30 plus 100, which is 150. It becomes 150, right? So now what happens is, as soon as you have an assignment statement, as soon as you have an assignment statement for a variable, all that becomes local variable. Okay, so in this case, C is a local. This C is global. Okay, and this C is local. Okay, so that's why once we make this change, it is not visible. Now, if we tell
So what if
Python,
we want to change the global C in the function?
if you want to change global C in the function, then we will have to tell Python that okay, use the C which is at the top. So we'll say global C. So we tell Python inside this function. So we don't write global outside. We are writing inside the function. We're changing the scope of this variable C from local. We are making it global. Okay. So you tell Python that, okay, boss, this C is actually the global one. This is not the local one. So take this as the global one. So then it's going to actually make this change, right? And then this change will be affected. Okay, this change will be affected outside, right?
Yes.
So global C, this is there. And in fact, even if you don't have it here, then still this works fine, right? It has defined this C in the global context. Okay, so we can actually run this so that there's no trail of the memory from top. So we will actually, today's session 5, right? So fun scope.py. So we'll just paste the code here, and then we will come to session 5, Python 3, scope. So yeah, so that's fine. So see, C is not defined here, but we have said, okay, this is the global C. So there will be a global C which will be created if it is not there, and then that's what this value will be. Okay, so we will have this kind of value. So we have a variable which is there in the global context or global namespace, right? If we had, let's say, if we have some other function, and then we have defined another function, diff, right? And then we are just passing a to this, and we are returning C minus a, and then we are calling this print. We'll say diff, and a we are just passing, let's say, 15, right? So in this case, since we are invoking after this invocation, so the global C has been declared, and then this diff should be able to use the C, and it should print me 85, isn't it? And it does. Is this clear, or it's all going over the head, or I'm saying something is not clear?
Everything is
It's
clear,
clear,
sir.
sir.
Okay, good, 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 very good. Okay, so fine. Now another funny thing is, right? So uh, we have not defined this global. Okay, so we say print C. Now till this point of time, you see, okay. So I have not defined C here. So in this case, it should print 10 because I have defined it here. Won't you think that? If I execute this and I'm calling add function, it comes here, and till this point of time, the C is global, but when it comes to this line, it becomes local, isn't it? That's how we would think.
Sir, I think it will show C is undefined, sir.
Yes, very good. And why it will show undefined?
Sir, because like now, like it will consider it as a local, sir. It won't go for the
Excellent,
global.
excellent, excellent. Because what happens is Python follows function based scope. Okay, so the blocks have no meaning. Let's say if I have a for loop, right? For loop x in range 10. Okay, and then we say, okay, print x. Then x, if you print x, x will be visible. X will be visible uh, even outside this for loop. Okay, even outside this for loop. So if I have this for loop for x in range 10, and I'm saying print hello, and then outside the loop I say print x, right? So if I run this, now you see it is going to print the value of x, which becomes 9. That's the last value which it will assume, right? So this is all. So Python does not follow block based scope; it follows function based scope. So as soon as it sees, okay, you have defined C, okay, at the parsing time, it will make it a local scope. So if I do this and say, hey, variable C is local, we have referenced before assigning. Okay, so uh, so so you cannot use something like this. Either you put it below this, or you have above this. If it is above this, then you have to say global C. C is actually global. I'm referring to this particular one. Okay, so in that case, you will variable can be only of one type, either global or local. So now this C becomes global. Okay, so we are printing the value of C, which is 10, and then C becomes 100, and then this prints 100, and then outside function also it prints me 100. So now C has become global. Okay, students, clear?
Yeah, sir.
Yes.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, so there is actually I have been using this name method and function interchangeably. They pretty much mean the same thing. Methods are used in object oriented context. Okay, methods also are like functions. They have functionality to execute. Okay, but only thing is they are used more in object oriented context. And objects, if we get into that, then we have to create our class and all. We can create any class anyway. So I think let's not discuss about class
So is
because that's
defining object in the first line, is that mandatory?
defining object in the
No,
first
sir.
line.
Like class my pattern bracket like argument, it was given object. Is that mandatory?
No, no, this is it's not. Basically, this means that no, it is following. There's something called inheritance. Okay, so again, it's a object-oriented principle. Okay, so let's not get into that. Okay, so just you can actually ignore this for time being. Let's to understand the difference between method and function is it is pretty much the same. Only thing is when you see that I'm using this in this context, right? Then this is actually acting as a function. But if I using dot operator, okay, this is a method context. This is I'm using like a function, and this I'm using like a function. So this function is available on list object. So I'm saying list object dot this function, list object dot this method. So this is actually acting, this has access to this list because it's part of this method is part of list object. That's the only difference which you have to understand. Now here we are not using any dot operator. Okay, is this clear?
So it inherits these methods from the class.
So okay, so inheritance as the thing is a different concept altogether. Here what we are saying is every object in the digital world has two things. One is it has properties and it has methods. No, like we are also object. Our properties is like height, weight, age, tone of the voice, all that. These are our properties. And then we eat, we talk, we sleep. Those are our methods. Those are our, or we work, right? We code. Those are our methods. Those are our functions which we perform, right? So, uh, so properties and methods are part of the function. Okay. Inherit means
Part of the
they
class.
inherit means I am inheriting functions of my father. So that is basically inheritance. Okay. So again, that's more of
Yes, got. Yeah. So the
yes.
object inherits the functions of the class.
Object. Okay. So see, class comes from classification. Okay, which means of this class, like no animal class. It's not our school class, right? It's like animal class or person class, right? That is basically, you can say it's a blueprint or the template or the classification, that animal classification, person classification. Now objects, me and you are actually objects of person class. Okay, objects, we are objects. One class can have um, unlimited, I'm saying any number of objects which you want to create. So class, you can think class is like a factory, and the cars coming out of that factory are actually objects. Make
Yeah.
sense? Okay.
Yes.
Uh, okay, good. Yes, inheritance is something which is, again, so don't want to spend too much of time. Inheritance is like, no, this person class actually would inherit from animal because all of us are animal. So animals like reproduce, we eat, we walk, those things will be available in person also. So we don't have to, maybe we don't have to define those classes, like no,
So
we
so
breathe
person inherits from the animal
animal.
class.
Yes, yes. So the properties and the methods of animal will be available to person.
Yes.
Okay, okay. That was a side discussion, so we'll come to the main discussion now. So then this basically method, that's the only difference. And you can read about all this. Range we have used a number of times, so you are clear about the three variations of the range: start, stop, and step, right? And range gives us the sequence of numbers, sequence of integers. All these things, I think, clear to you. You can try them out, right? So okay, lambda function. Again, I think we have a detailed discussion when we deal with, I'm saying, advanced topic, because lambda per se, you would think, okay, why it is used, but when we start using them in higher order functions, it will start making sense. So let's not get into lambda. We'll move on to the next topic, which is our I think operators will just quickly run through. So we know that these are comparison operators, also called relational operators, logical operators, we know, and or not, membership operator in, not in. Okay, so like X not in Y, right? So Y is a iterable. Y is a iterable sequence or list or a string. Identity operator is not. Okay, is not. So identity operator are used to find whether these are the same object or they are different objects. Okay, whether they're the same objects or they're different objects. So if I have L1, L1 has AMM and I have L2, even this has AMM, then if I say L1 is L2, then what it will give me? True or false?
That's true.
Okay, Rehan.
So true.
Okay, this will give false because they're different objects.
Yes.
I just copied this value and pasted here. So this became, but it is just value. It is created another object. So if I check ID, you can see this is ID of L1 is different from L2. Okay, but if I have L3, which is equal to L1, now the ID of L3 is same as ID of L1 because now both of them are pointing to the same object. Now if I say L1 is L3, it will say true. Okay, and if I say L2 is not L3, it will say true because they are different objects. Okay, so now just watch the subtle difference. So when it is in operator, then it becomes not in, and when you're using with is, it becomes is not. Not comes later to make it more look sound like English like. This object is not this object, right? Okay, instance is more of a function, but you can again use to find true or false, whether one particular thing is of this data type or not. You can always check like 5 is equal to int. You can check like this as well, that whether 5 is integer or some other data type. You can check with like this as well. Okay, is instance will tell you whether this particular object is of type of this data type. Compound operators, you guys are clear with it. So moving on to function operator. Exception handling. Before exception handling, we'll get into file handling because that will be your next project. Exception handling we can I think do it in the next class because I want to explain you a little bit about project as well. So now file handling. File handling means you can actually you can do any file manipulation. You can do file IO, input and output. Okay, so yeah, like everything in Python, even dealing with file operations very easy. So I'll say filed io.py. Now, if I want to access any file, that means I have to open that file. Either I want to open the file to read or I want to open the file to write. Now in Python, to no, open a file, you just use open command and you give it a file name. Do we have any file? We have other files. We can actually use any one of them. We can use
So should
for,
it be in the same directory?
you can specify path also, but for timing, we will consider that it's in the same directory. You can
So if you
provide,
just give the name, then it should be in the same directory.
yes, it has to be in the same directory, or you can use dot 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 and you can go to the other directory. Okay, so by default, if you just provide, so I'm using this for ex as just an example. Okay, so this is going to open this file and you can hold it in the variable. Okay, by default the mode is read. If you want to change the mode, by default the mode is either read, you can say, or you can say R. If you want to change the mode, if you want to make it in write, you will have to specify as W. So you have to specify the mode as well. Okay, so I can just read it and then I can simply print fh dot read. This is a function available to me, and I will say Python 3 file, and it reads the content of this file. Okay, I'm reading file example, for example. Okay, so this is, it's able to read all the content, and I'm simply able to read all of that. There are various variations also which you can look into. We can say file help file. No, I think we just say open. So yeah, so this is basically the different modes which are there: read, write. There are different modes, you can try them out. The most important ones are read, write, and append. You can combine also two modes. You can open the file in read as well as write mode. For that, you'll have to say plus, and then okay, so then you can actually uh, read through this. All that is there, and then so once we say uh, open, and I will say some file, let's say aa.txt. Now, if I create this file in write mode, is if this file does not exist, it is going to create it. Okay. So if I do something like this, then it is going to create. I think this I have opened from my home directory. So it has created this. Okay, this file. It has created this file. Now I can actually do a help, and I can say fh dot. Yes, I can do this, or I can also say fh dot. I can check on all the methods available to me. So the methods are read, read line, read lines, all this is the seek. The different methods. You can try them out. Okay. So uh, to so as of now, since we have opened the file in write mode, you will have to say write. So we can say write, or we can say write lines. So I want to write something. So I'll say write, and I will say hello, today is Sunday. Okay, so I've written this, and then yeah, I just want to write it's a sunny day. Okay, now we have done this. Now with file operations, you will have to make sure that you close the file, and it's a function, rather method, and you have to close this file. Right, so you see we have written this file and nothing is showing up. As soon as we close this, then it starts showing up. Okay, but you see it's coming in one line. Now if we want this to come in separate line, what should we do? What can we do?
/n.
/n, yes. So if we open the file again, and now one thing is, if I open the file again in write mode, it's going to erase all the data. It's going to erase all the data. So it is going to so I don't want to erase all the data. I want to append to this file. So I will open in the append mode. So when I do this, the file is open, and then I can say write. I can just simply put as many new line characters, but it may still rain today. Okay, I can say something like this. Now you see it is not reflecting, but as soon as we say file.close, it does reflect here. Okay, it does reflect here. Got it? Clear?
Yes,
We
sir.
can actually simply open this file also, and then you can do that. Right, so now reading and writing is all fine. You can always do this kind of thing also. You can say for f in AA, right? Right. Sorry, open aa.txt. Okay, and then it should not be f, is actually should be line. I mean the variable name, but that's okay. I'm using f as the variable, so it will actually read line by line. It will give me line by line data. So I can do this as well. Okay. So now, now you see actually it is giving me more number of lines. Why this is happening? Any idea? If I go to a let me no, it's here. So it does not have those many number of lines, but if I am running this kind of thing, line, it is actually giving more number lines. Why it is so?
So by default, there's a new line character.
Where by
Like
default, where?
when you print F, by
Excellent.
default, the
Yes, yes. So print adds its own new line character. Very good. So print will have its own new line character because that's how end is defined, and that's how we are getting it in all that in. We are getting additional new lines, right? So you can do all this now. So we have read everything, and we can actually have not close. So okay, nothing to be closed, but this is fine. Now let's say I open this file again. So I'll say fh is equal to open txt, and I'm opening this in read. Okay, if I want to read just 4 characters, I can say read 4. Okay, so it's going to read me 4 hell. Hello becomes hell. Okay, so now if I want to read no, or let's say if I want to read now till end of the line, it is reading till the end of the line. Okay, now let's say if I want to read first 10 characters, what should we do to read first 10 characters, which are there? Hello, today is Sunday. Hello, today. If I want to read
colon
10
10.
colon 10,
So
no,
will colons were.
colons won't work in
So
this.
just 10, just yes.
Only 10, right?
So what if you want to read like a slice of it? Can you do that?
If you want to read a slice, you will have to do a lot of manipulation. You will have to go to that particular. So we will come to that. Okay. So if you want to read 10, now this reads nothing. Now why this is happening? Any idea? Any idea? See, when we read 4 characters, it read hell. Then when we read all, which is I said, okay, read everything, it read from O. This hell is O from O is from hello. It read till there. And when we are reading 10 characters, it is reading nothing. Why it is happening this?
So maybe because hell is missing.
Because hell is missing. Okay, hell is not missing. Hell is there in the file. Say hell is
So
actually
why
hello.
did like when the second read was then, why did hell go?
Why did hell go? Yes,
Is it
that's
like the cursor moves as you read?
excellent. That's what is happening, right? So when we read 4, actually the cursor is here. Now this cursor which I'm seeing it is different than the cursor which is opened here in the file. Okay, the cursor is here. It's not that if I put the cursor here, then if I read it, then it's going to read this. No, not like that. Okay. But yeah, you're right. So when we read 4 characters, it read till here. When we read rest of the thing, it read everything. And now the cursor for this file is actually in the end. Now we can use a method to bring this cursor anywhere we want. Okay, so that method is called seek. Okay, we want to bring the to 10th character, we can do that, right? So it is at the 10th character. Now we read 10, so it is reading from the 10th character. The 10th character will be somewhere here, so it is reading from Y is Sunday. Okay, something like that. If you want to bring it right in the front, you can
So
make it.
does it put the cursor after the 10th character or before the 10th character?
It is at the yeah, after no, before the 10th character. No, so it will be before. I'm saying, yeah, you can count it. So this is basically 6 after the 10th character. After
Oh,
the 10th character.
yeah.
Okay. So if it is 0, then it comes right at the first character, right? Right, the first character. So So it comes 10 will come here and 0 will come here before, because there is no character before that, right? So now it is at the front. Now if I read no, sorry, I have to say seek to 0. I'll say seek, right? So it has gone at the beginning, and now if I say read 10, is going to read from the beginning. So using seek, you can bring it anywhere. And if you want to write, as you're saying that you want to slice something, then you will have to use you have to use seek to bring to that character, and then you read that those many characters only, right? That's how you can actually use seek.
So can
Okay.
you do the same, all these functions same for any type of file?
For any type, it should not be binary file, but for all the
No,
text
like
files you
for
will be able to.
example, if it's like a Python file, can I code
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. We did that,
Oh,
right? We did that.
oh,
So all text based files you can do it.
oh, yes.
Okay, we did that in our code. Actually, we opened this Python file only.
Yes, so can you recode it? You can do it with the same way, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so yeah, so that is all about function. You can read through them. Okay, so I think we
So what is
are
the function for like clearing the whole file?
for clearing the whole file. If you open the file and read write mode, anyway, it deletes everything.
Oh.
It
So
deletes
just
everything.
write mode and then close, it's all clear.
It's all clear. Yeah, you can do that, but there could be a specific way to do it. But I'm saying right thing is if I say fh dot close, it's close. Now fh is holding to that a. Now this is there. If I say let's say I open this, open, and then I open it in write mode, and then so far it is not cleared. Um, yeah, so if I say fh dot close, what is this? It's not okay. If I let's say if I try to write it, okay. So if I say this, and I'm saying fh dot write hello, right now if I say fh dot close, oh, because this file is open, no, that's why it's not making those changes. So this has changed, right? So
Yes.
because those file is changing, but it no, there
It
was
can't
no,
update in real.
yeah, because it's open, right? So if I say open again and write, then see it's all cleared. Okay, so you can use the write mode to clear everything, which is basically why you want to clear, because you want to write something to it, right? So just open the in write mode, it will be automatically cleared, and then you can write whatever you want. But make sure you're closing this. It's very important that you should get used to close functionality whenever you're handling any resource. Okay, this resource is external to your program. It is something which is sitting in the file system, so you should close it. Similarly, if you're connecting to database or you're connecting to socket connection, you should close it. Make sure that you're closing those connections, because those are resources. You've used it, just close it so that others can use it. Okay, so this,
What if you don't close it?
if you don't close, then first of all, the file can also get corrupted if you're not closing it. Secondly, the file when multiple people are writing to it, then yeah, so the data can become mangled. Also, in the resource thing, the thing is that no, the resources are limited. Like for example, you have a database, you have 1,000 connections, 1,000 connection, but you have million users. If you're holding this connection for every user, your database will not be sufficient, right?
Yes.
So your connections will exhaust if you're not closing that, and that is a very common scenario which you encounter, that okay, there are no connections available because there is some connection leak. Somebody is not closing the connection. Maybe the thread is dying, so it is not able to close the connection, or somebody has not written the code to close the connection. Okay, so this scenario happens a lot. That's why I'm insisting that make sure that you're closing the resources. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So now I think we have covered all this. You can actually go through these things, paths and all. Maybe if you want, you can read it, but maybe you can ignore it also.
So can you scroll a bit up?
So these are different.
So a bit more up, it said with open. What's that?
Yeah, with. Okay. So with. So as I was saying that no, we have to put little bit of boilerplate code, the closing code and all. So with this, you really don't have to do it. Okay. So you say with open, and this will make sure that no, this, if the file is available, then only it is going to open it. Okay. So with open as file one, right? And then file one is available to you. You can do all that, and then it will automatically close it. Is the file one closed? That's what we're checking. So let's say we open this file. It is opened this file. And is the file one closed? It says true. It automatically closes this file. So you don't have to write the boilerplate code which is of closing when you're using with. Okay. So with, not only with file operation, it is actually used at other places also. So there, wherever you're using with, it provides a boilerplate code for handling any error scenarios, like the file does not exist or there is some exception occurring. So those are the things it's going to handle it, and it's also going to close that connection in this case. Okay, so that is
Yes.
what is with. Right, so I think this is all fine. I'll just quickly jump to the project and I'll show you the project, because that is something which you have to work on. It's a banking application project, and this is a very important project. You have to work on it, and you have to make sure that you have built it properly, because this is one real software
So
which you
like
are
in the next lab session or at home.
no, next lab session you're going to practice. This is your home project.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so yeah, so
So
make
is
sure
that like a demo of how it should look?
this is basically this is whatever you have learned, that is your learning outcome. That's what you have to demonstrate. You have to bring in all together and do it. I will quickly show you the demo for this project. Okay, so I'll go to, I think I've showed in the first class, didn't I? Or maybe not. So I'll go to Python 3. I'm just using a simple version, so Maker Bank. And so I'm just entering the account number. So 10,000, and I'm saying PIN is 1234. It's able to authenticate, and it's able to say that, okay, this is a manager. I can do various operations. I can actually do an open account also. So I can say one and enter a name. Let's say, no, let's open an account for Rehan, and let's give a PIN as 5566. Let's say 10,000 as the opening balance. So Rehan, you get this account number, and then PIN we have to remember. So we will actually run this program again, and then your account number is this. PIN is 5566. And then you see that no, it is able to authenticate, and it's able to tell, okay, thank you for authenticate. It's able to identify you. We can check that no, okay, so we deposit 10,000. Let's say if we have 10,000, so we'll press 4 and we see, okay, this is indeed 10,000. We want to withdraw 2,000. Okay, we've done that. What would you like to, again, I want to check the balance, and says, okay, this is 8,000, right? So I can do all that. I want to deposit 500. So no, again, check. Yes, the balance is 8,500, and then I can exit. I can just press 5 and I can exit. Okay, so this is the project which you have to build. Now this file project is using file operations. Okay, so you see I'm using file-based DB. It's a file system, it's plain and simple text file, and this is the record which has been added when I did a new account. So this is my
Yeah.
account number. This was randomly generated. So you guys know about random module. So you can randomly generate a integer value, use that, and whatever pin is assigned to you, you use the pin. Then this is the name which was provided. This was the then balance. So one record represents one customer. So we are not maintaining, just for simplicity's sake, we are not maintaining the whole transaction history because the code will become complicated. Just focus on this, that no, you're able to do this four transactions. That's it, which is checking the balance, withdrawal, deposit, and exiting, and then of course opening a new account, right? So these are the 5 things which you should be able to do. That we are not looking at your transaction history. That will be a complicated project, and that is better done with a database, not with a file-based operation. Okay, so one customer record, one line. That this is how will make your code simpler. So you can use file-based DB, and this is how you can define your data format. Okay, so this is, you have to work on it, and this description is also available on Robopreneur. So this is the same thing which is available there, project description. You can read through it, and
So I can change features, right? It just needs to have the basic.
these features are important. There are some extra assignments also. So if you want to uh, add that, that's again you can do it. But yeah, if you want to make additional features beyond this,
So
yeah,
like
you're
for
free to do that.
example, I shouldn't need to have a login ID to create an account, right? So initially it'll ask if you have an account
Yes,
like
yes,
that.
yes. Okay, so one thing just wanted to tell you is that no, so see, whenever you define a system, so there are two things. One thing is you will always have a database ready. In this case, you will have a file ready, so you don't have to create automatically the file. You can just directly create the file. Okay, so your file will be there, and you will at least have one record for the system administrator. Otherwise, the system administrator, how will that person get inside the system? So whenever you
Yes.
build a system, you have at least one record, which is of the admin of the system, who has all the rights. Okay, so that is the way software is created and designed. So, and it makes sense also, right? Because this software is to add 10,000 more customers, no, not just create the first one. Okay, so that's how we always have one entity, one person always available, and you can create this file beforehand itself. You don't have to write and then create a file. Okay, when I write, it will create a file, right? So you just create a file and add a record. Maybe that will be the manager's record. You can add a record, or system admin record, or admin record. You can add one record, and then you are good to uh, code the other functionality. Okay, clear? Makes sense? Any
Yes.
question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. And one thing is, like, it keeps on asking me again and again. So it should not exit. It should give me an option. So which means that there has to be some loop which will be in picture, right? So read through this, and assignment overview, all this is there. This is some output format. You can look into this. Is my requirements. Okay, so yeah, this is your project, and this will be a very interesting project. And this is very, very kind of a real life project. So this is what you should really focus on and try to get this thing done, because there are a lot of functionality which you have to bring it together. And that is what is the real software development. Okay, real software development is just not about knowing some of the features, building something meaningful, and which means you will have many scenarios which will come together in play, and you have to code them. You have to understand that how you structure the code so that your functionality works logically. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Super. Okay, students, all the best, and I'll see you next class. Sorry, we have extended this class by 17 minutes. Okay, sorry about that. We'll see you in the next class. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye. Thank you for joining.